wife, she told me before we got into this game, she's like, hey, these people are not your friends, right? They're not your friends. And it's like, you can be friendly, you can be courteous, you can be professional, but at the end of the day, you have to run your business or your business is going to run you into the ground.
That's facts, bro.
We the Property Brrrrothas. The Property Brrrrothas.
What's up, everybody? It's your boys, the Property Brrrrothas. I'm your host, Jordan, along with my cousin, my co-host, Drew. What's up, brother?
I'm Drew. What's happening, man? How you doing?
Man, I'm great, dude. Man, it's a nice evening to get to chat with you, my brother, and we'll kind of bring the people some value in our BRRRR space.
Absolutely. So I think that in the BRRRR space, this is probably the least talked about segment or
Yes.
or what do you call it? Step in the process.
Yeah, step or aspect.
People always think like, okay, you know what? I'm gonna find a renter and then I'm gonna make that money, right? And so, there's a lot more to just putting a warm body into your unit that you work so hard to rehab. There's a lot of steps that we have to take into consideration. And today we are going to talk about those steps. So Jordan, what do we got in store for the folks?
Yeah, man. Yeah. So we are going to break down the rent and the BRRRR, the buy, rehab, rent, refinance, and repeat strategy. So today, guys, we're going to, kind of do an overview, right? We're going to break down, why getting that rent is important, setting the rent the right way, why that's important, and then you really can't have rent without a tenant. And so
Right.
that is got to be really, really important. So one of the other things we're going to talk about is the tenant screening process and, why getting that right will cause you so many less headaches, so many less phone calls, and ultimately less money. And then lastly, we'll kind of wrap it up with, all right, you set the rent right, you got the tenant. Now, how do you collect it, right?
How do
Let's
you
talk
collect
about
it?
automating the rent process, right? So
Yeah.
that's what we kind of got in store.
What are you saying, man? You don't like pick up the phone every month and call your guys and be like, hey, rent is due. Rent is due.
Yeah. Yeah, dude, like if it was just that simple, right? We know we would love for people to, just pick up the phone and be like, hey, I got your rent, on time at the first of the month. And, it's going to be like pass and go, like Monopoly, right? And
Yes.
unfortunately, it's just not like that, because people are just not wired like that, right?
Exactly. So when we start talking about rent, like I said, rent deserves respect, right? So when we're looking at
Preach.
rent, right, we need to treat it like it's not just another box to check, right? We need to go through a process because this is really a major aspect of your deal. This is really what's going to help that deal to be successful. So we need to start treating this thing like a business. And by collecting rent, setting the rent properly, going through that screening process, that is really going to help you to run it like a business.
Yeah, 100%, dude, because after you set that rent and you get that tenant, you have to go into the refinance process. And, not to jump ahead too much, but just so you know where this leads to, the refinance process is where your lender is looking at the net operating income, right? Like how much income is your property generating? And if you price it too low, y- your unit's going to be sitting vacant. Or excuse me, if you price it too high, your unit's going to be sitting vacant. If you price it too low, right, you're going to be lowballing yourself and you're not going to be generating that net operating income that your lender wants to see and to refinance at, and do this whole BRRRR strategy and do it right. So yes, Drew is absolutely correct. Rent needs respect. RESPECT.
It really does. It does, man. And, just to kind of piggyback off that whole refinance thing, we'll touch upon this in the next episode, but if your rent is priced too low and you're trying to take out more money, the bank is going to look at that and say, hey, we can only give you X amount of dollars because the rent will only be able to port that amount of monthly payment to support your
Yeah.
principal and interest, your insurance, and all the other things that taxes, etc. So you need to make sure that that rent is priced perfectly so that you can pull out the amount of money to actually complete the BRRRR, have that perfect BRRRR where you get all your money
Right.
back after you refinance.
Right. Yes. I mean, we we're in it for the perfect BRRRR. I mean, they don't always happen, but I mean, ultimately that's what we strive for, is that perfect BRRRR. But yeah, so let's get into it. Let's talk, pricing, right? Setting the rent right and taking the guesswork out of it.
Right.
So,
Right.
what are some tools or some things that, people can do that are listening and watching us on YouTube? What are some steps that they can take?
Well, we talked about this during the buy process. Remember, we pulled it up on the screen and basically said, before we actually purchase a property, we're analyzing not only the rehab and the amount of work that it's going to take to do the rehab, but we're also analyzing what is the after repair value. And we're also analyzing if we're actually planning on keeping this property and not flipping it, we are looking at how much rent can we get. And so I
Right.
believe the tool that we pulled up was BiggerPockets.
Yeah. Yeah. And so I'm going to go ahead and pull that up on my screen right now.
But there's other tools out there. I mean, obviously, you could actually go to Zillow and you could
Yeah.
pull up a search for properties around your area to see exactly what rent is being charged or what people are looking to charge, right? There's other technology out there which, we're going to jump into and obviously show the folks. But yeah, let's check out this real estate rent estimator. This is always one of my favorite parts because I look at it,
Yeah.
I'm like, all right, how much money are we going to be able to generate?
That's
You
it,
know,
man. That's it. That's where, like you said, that's where all the hard work goes in, right? You bought it, you rehabbed it, right? You have all this money going into it. And now
yes,
this is where your hard work pays off, right? This is where we
absolutely.
start generating that income. And so, yeah, go ahead, Drew.
So why don't we put in an address? Weren't you looking at some lookers earlier?
Okay, so we're going to bring up an address here
Yeah,
in
weren't you talking to
Indianapolis.
me about this property before? This
Yeah,
is
I was
one of those
talking to
that's
you
on
about this
a double
property.
lot or something.
Yeah, this is on a double lot, man, and it is a looker.
It's ugly. I
It
like it.
is ugly.
Yes,
It
baby.
was a two-bedroom. It
Okay.
was a two bath.
Okay. 2 and 2. Interesting.
Yeah,
Alright. Look at that. That rent's all over the place. Wow.
it is. It's like as low as 657, as high as 3,400. Median rent
Yes.
1,080. The confidence level though is pretty low. So that
So let
indicates
me
to
ask
us
you,
that yeah,
that's currently in its current condition. Obviously, we're gonna rehab that to
yeah,
make it look like we say, that HGTV look, right? We're gonna
right,
take that looker
right.
into a booker. So,
Looker into a
we probably
booker.
yeah, we'd probably be looking at around, I mean, hey, if it's 1470, you know,
Mhm.
for 2 bedroom, 2 bath, wow. That's really incredible.
Yeah. So, if we're working with 1470, we might be able to come in, maybe a little lower than that. Let's say like right
Right.
around 1400, right
Yeah,
around 1400 bucks. As an aside, people, if you are listening to us on podcasts, jump on over to YouTube, where you can see the screen sharing action. Property
absolutely, absolutely. So what we're
Brothers.
seeing right now is we're seeing several properties that are listed at 1470. They're 2 bedroom, 2 bath, 850 square feet. When I say several, I really mean one because that's the same address listed 3 times. Why you doing that to us, Bigger Pockets? Giving us
why you
false hope,
why you messing with us?
right? Well, if you scroll up a little bit,
Yeah.
there's a couple that there's
Amway
950.
Stadium.
there's 1,875. So really, this thing is all over the place. And so
Yeah.
when we talked about this last time, we mentioned that what we like to do is actually compare comparables. We need to open up the property and see what it looks like. So you need to make sure that you're comparing apples to apples and not apples to oranges, because
Yeah.
you can really mess yourself up that way. So
Right.
that's part of that analysis, right?
Right. Exactly. And that's
But
going
this
to
is
go
one
back
tool. What
in
other
the buy
tools do we have,
process.
Jordan?
Yeah, we got lots of tools. So just to finish my thought, this is one tool, like you said, but this will go back in the buy process, right? One of the other things you can do, like Drew said, Zillow, Rentometer,
Uh-huh.
can set the rents right over here. Okay, this one's pretty easy to use. We don't use it that often, but I mean, if you are starting it, I used to use this when I first started out. As you can see, my pro trial has ended because I haven't used it in a minute.
Wow.
Because I have since gone over to the Bigger Pockets rent estimator.
Yep.
Shout out to BP community. But Rentometer, do not sleep on it. It is a very powerful tool. You have the free version. Of course, if you get the pro version, you can get the upgraded features. But
Yeah.
this too is a tool that we use. Good old Facebook too, Drew.
Yeah,
Facebook
absolutely.
marketing,
Yep.
dude,
Yep.
that can work. What about just picking up the phone, maybe calling a local property manager? You know,
You
call
could
your
do
local
that too.
property manager.
Yeah, absolutely. The other one that we shared last time when we were doing the buy process was Deal Pilot. Deal
Deal
Pilot
pilot. Yeah,
also gives an estimation of rent as well. So, just a combination of all those tools and just a little bit of research, right? Get a little elbow grease getting in there, call up
yeah,
property managers, look at Zillow, just make sure that you're comparing something that looks just like yours with very similar amenities. You don't want to
exactly.
compare your house that, is bare bones to a house that's been completely made over with crown molding and a fireplace and a hot tub, etc.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. You don't want to compare your house to the a castle, right? You don't want to compare it to
Exactly.
Kensington Manor, right?
Yes,
Like let's
exactly.
let's be real about
100%.
it. So that way
One of
you are setting the rent right. You are getting that respect that your
Yeah.
property absolutely needs.
Yeah. And the other thing is that, when you do post that rent, the market will tell you if you are in the neighborhood or not. No pun
Yeah.
intended.
Yeah.
The market will tell you. They'll either be calling, knocking down your door, and at that
Dude.
point in time, you might be priced a little bit too good, right?
Yeah.
Or
Too good, too low, right? When you say too good, you mean
or you
like
ain't
too
got
low.
nobody, right?
Yeah.
Nobody's calling, right? And so now you realize you might be priced a little bit above what the market can bear. So
Yeah.
the world will tell you.
Yes. Yeah. So that's a pro tip. People from the Property Brrrrothas,
Brothers.
price your unit, you know, just under the market, right? Like we saw on the screen share. That one maybe coming around 1470. That one was all over the place. But let's say it was around 1470, 1475. If you price it right around 1400 bucks, I think that's a real nice sweet spot because you'll fill it faster, right? And you will most likely get more applications, but you won't be losing out on, really much income. Your lender's not going to be mad at you. And 75 bucks is really not going to, kill a deal, when it comes to
Right,
rent.
right. The other thing that comes to mind is, I have a property right in that area and it is a 2 bedroom. And I know that that market can support about 1,300 a month for a
Okay.
2 bedroom. So
Good point.
as you start to
Good tip.
accumulate properties, right, you'll get a feel for the different neighborhoods and you'll start to understand what the market can bear in those
Yeah.
various neighborhoods.
Yeah. Just from experience, right? Just from starting to accumulate, like you said. So, hey, here we go. if you are listening right now, pause our podcast, pause our YouTube right now. Here's what I want you to do. I want you to go check 5 rental comps in your area, wherever you live, wherever you are investing. I don't care. We are long distance investors, and run a rentometer report, run a rental estimator on the BiggerPockets report. Go do it. See what comes
I love
through,
that.
and then unpause, come back to
Yep.
us, and then pick up where we left off. Don't worry.
Yeah.
We'll wait.
Take some action, man. Take some action.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. Okay. So, dude, we talk about setting the rent right. Okay. How to, basically take the guessing out. Right. So
Yes.
now, most important part, now you've got people calling you. You're like, all right, this is good. It's set. Now you need somebody to move in. Now you need a tenant. So how are we
Right.
going to screen tenants? How are we going to keep the cash and get rid of and like just be like so over the chaos, right? How are we just
Yeah,
going to
man.
do this in a smooth process?
So this is not the time to get lazy, man. So, of
Telling me.
course, you start getting excited that you're getting calls. You're like, oh, this thing, I'm going to start making money. I'm going to start making money. But hold the phone. You need to screen your tenant. This is something you cannot sleep on. This is the most important aspect of renting your property. So
Yes.
there are tools out there that can help you do that. But even before, you know, I had a property that I had put on the market, and I probably got like 15, 15 to 20 different applications on that property. You
Yeah.
have to set up a pre-screening mechanism before you actually take them through another screening up. So
Right. Right.
what we do is we'll set up a form for them to fill out prior, that we can take a look at and qualify and make sure that they have the income, the history, etc. Whatever those criteria that you decide makes sense for you to screen, pre-screen. And then once they've gotten past that part, now you can set them up on a software screening.
Yeah, yeah. So if I hear you right, you're saying like kind of like the pre-screen's like a soft screen, right? It's just kind of
It
like
is.
wade through all of the people who, maybe just don't know how to fill out an application, maybe
Right,
don't know how to spell their name right or something. Get rid of those
right,
doofloppers, right? And
right,
then
right.
now your barrel is a little bit smaller, and now you can push
Yes.
them through the actual
Yeah.
software or application process. That's dope, dude. That's dope. That's a great idea.
Yep. So
Cool.
that's called that pre-screen form. And then the next one is, do they make enough money? Right?
They gotta pay. Hey,
Can they have,
I mean,
if they,
at the
if
end of
the
the
rent is
day,
$1,400 and they make $1,400, you gotta eat.
you gotta
You gotta
eat.
have fun, right? That ain't gonna
Yeah.
cut it.
Look, if you have a choice between eating and paying your rent, you're gonna eat. So
All day
somebody's
long.
somebody's not gonna get paid. Unfortunately,
Yep.
they gonna have to rob Peter to pay Paul, and guess who Peter
Yeah.
gonna be?
It's not you.
Yeah.
It's not. It's no. Well, no. You are getting robbed. So I guess you are Peter.
Yeah, that's right. You
I
are
meant to
Peter,
say
my
you
friend.
ain't Paul because you ain't getting paid.
No, you ain't. Yeah, we ain't Paul in this situation.
There
My
we
name
go.
is
I got
Paul,
you. I
and
got you.
that's between y'all.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
But
So
yes,
what is the structure of the screening process? What is it that we're looking for?
so we are looking for typically 3 times the monthly income.
Okay.
Right, or about 3 times the monthly income. We're doing a credit check. Okay,
So when you say so can you qualify that the 3 times the monthly income? Are you meaning 3 times the monthly rent?
thank you.
So if the
Yes,
rent is a
sorry.
thousand
Yes,
dollars, then you're looking for 3,000.
correct, correct.
Okay.
Yes,
Got
yeah.
you.
Let me clarify. 3 times their monthly income, and this is gross income, needs to be 3 times the monthly rent. We're
There we
doing a
go.
credit check.
Yep.
Typically, You want someone in the, 600s, mid 600s, 650, a 660, 640, kind of
And why
below
is that?
that. Well, because below that, then that's showing that they, typically just don't have a good track record with
Right.
finances. They may have some delinquencies. They may have some outstanding debts.
Yeah.
Maybe they owe another landlord. And guess what? If you're doing a credit check, you best believe you better be doing a background check into
Right.
their rental history. And guess what?
Yeah.
Not just their current landlord, go get the one
But
before
they're
that too,
Yes,
right?
absolutely. Yeah, I mean, you definitely want to make sure that you're bringing someone in who is fiscally responsible, right? They care about their credit, right? Because if they're coming in and they already have a 500, what you gonna do to it? What you
Right?
go? I ain't
Yeah.
scared of
Yeah.
getting
Yeah.
down to a 400, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, you need somebody who actually cares about their credit and can show that they have a responsible payment history and
Correct.
et cetera. It just seems like that might be common sense, right? If you're putting somebody into for me, my homes or my units are like my babies, right?
Uh-huh.
I
Yeah.
just brought it into the world and it's
Right.
gorgeous.
We
I
just
want to make
birthed.
sure that somebody's going to take care of it.
Yeah. We just birthed this new rehab, right?
Yes, we did.
We want
Yes, we
somebody to
did.
take care of the baby. That's right. That's right. So with
Right.
that
And
said,
I love your tip about because a lot of times when I run a background check,
mhm,
it only shows the last landlord, right? And so you have to make sure that you go and look at the other history, all of the rental history.
yeah, dude, do that, man. That's another property brothers pro tip,
I
man.
love
Look
it.
at
I
all
love it.
of their history, their landlord verification. And so background check. So we have a couple of tools for that, right?
Yeah,
Again,
absolutely.
let me go back to the screen share and just kind of show you some of the tools that we're working with when it comes to some of the screenings that we're going to do. Okay, so we have tools pulled up here. Avail.co is very helpful with managing your property. How about this one? This is a good one. Smart
Yeah, that's
Move,
great. Yes.
right? Smart Move is ran by TransUnion, which is a
It's
credit
a credit bureau. Yeah.
bureau. Thank you. Excuse me. All right. And so this would be a great tool to use when screening your tenants. I love their little
Right. That's
thumbnail
horrible.
here. Yeah.
It's like, hey, if you get a bad tenant, this is what you get. If you get a good
Yeah.
tenant, there you go.
Hey, coming from the advertising king himself, right? Is that a good ad or what?
That's beautiful.
That's
It's
beautiful.
beautiful.
That's beautiful.
It
And
really
so,
hits the pain points.
yeah, exactly. And I think and so the other one that we want to show you is Rent Ready, because this is one that Drew and I both use.
Yeah.
And Rent Ready is kind of a one-stop shop. Kind of
Hmm.
do a soft screen and get all of the, like I call them, the dooflops out.
Right.
But it will also do the hard screen, the application, run the check, the background check, and do all that good stuff. And from there, and Drew, I'm going to kind of let you take it over from here. But from here, doesn't it also continue to like kind of manage your property and your rent and all that good stuff too?
Yeah, absolutely. But before we go there, I also want to just make sure that the audience, when they are doing their screening, they're checking those references. You want to
Yeah.
make sure that if they put any references, actually pick up the phone and call them. You know,
Yeah. Actually
I've
do
even
that.
called, I've actually called landlords, how was this tenant? Give me a little synopsis. How'd they treat the property? Is this someone that you would actually rent to again? Right?
Yeah.
That should be a hard yes, always,
Yes.
right? That should be a
Yeah.
hard yes. But, check any references, friends, relatives or what have you, and just make sure that this person is real. Like I said, this is truly one of the most critical aspects. The you know, uh, qualifying this renter, because this renter, hopefully you'd like them to stay for a long time.
Yeah.
Currently my average tenant has been with me for over, since I've been in the game, right? So 2 to 3 years, right?
Yeah.
So that's a beautiful. You don't want to have a lot of tenant turnover, and
No, that's a big no-no.
that starts with properly screening the tenants and your applicants.
Yeah, absolutely. Facts, man.
So with that
And you,
being said, you asked me a question. So with Rent Ready is an excellent tool, and it's actually part of the Bigger Pocket. So Bigger Pockets offers their pro members a membership to Rent Ready for free.
yeah, that's right.
And what's great about Rent Ready is that it has pretty much everything that you need as a landlord. You're able to collect rent, can set up your leases in Rent Ready. It can manage all of the documentation. The tenant has an access to their own portal so that they can see what they've paid, they can see their leases, they can pay their rent. There's multiple ways that they can pay. They can actually pay by cash, by credit, by check, by ACH.
Mhm.
Obviously, with cash and check, they have to go to a location, but there are locations throughout the United States that they can drop that money in, and then it will get into Rent Ready. I don't have any tenants that do that, so I can't really speak to how that works, but I know that that's a functionality. The other
Yeah,
key piece is maintenance, right?
yeah,
If you are self-managing your properties like I do, you need a way to understand what maintenance needs are. You don't want them picking up the phone and calling you, right?
yeah,
So through Rent Ready, they're actually able to it's not a complaint, put their maintenance request. Hey, put
well,
their complaint. A lot of
drop it in
times
the
it is a
complaint
complaint.
box.
Yes, yes. But, put their maintenance request on Rent Ready, and they have a service that 24/7 they're monitoring the maintenance requests. And they actually have another service that they can either just they can fulfill that request, find somebody to actually take care of that on your behalf. They can reach out to your vendor list, which is huge. That's great. Save you a little bit of money,
Yeah,
or they can just notify you that, hey, this is what's going on, and now you take care of it internally. So it's a
yeah,
great, sophisticated, professional platform that
yeah,
allows you to manage from afar.
yeah.
And it also allows you to maintain communication with your tenants without having to pick up the phone. There's the text feature, there's an email feature, all built into the dashboard.
Nice. Nice. So, well, unbeknownst to Drew, we actually made that segue to our last segment, and that was automating the rent, right? And
Yeah.
he just gave a great example and a great tool on how, Rent Ready is automating from the beginning of the rent process. You can see on the screen share that it's got these categories: the pre-qualification, that would be the pre-screen, and then you see the application. Those people then move on to the application process, and then you have the maintenance request. You can set tasks, obviously. Rent,
Yeah.
you're collecting. They can pay through Rent Ready, and then from there, you can transfer that to your account. And I think,
Another cool thing.
yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say, well, which I believe I know that Rent Ready does is, you know, if you use this, that the tenant, they have their own app and they use Rent Ready and they see it on their end and they can, push through all those stuff. And I think that that's what you're alluding to. But yeah,
No,
no,
what
go
I was
ahead.
gonna say is the automation in Rent Ready is awesome. So if you were to
Yeah,
click on that dollar sign on the left-hand side, what's cool about Rent Ready is that if the person you can set up different rules. For
yeah,
example, let's say you do a $50 charge if they are 3 to 5 days late. You can actually set
yeah,
those rules up, and it will let you know or let them know that, hey, you're late, and it'll automatically add that charge. So that's a beautiful thing. So if you click on one of those, you can actually see that is the payment for this particular month. That's the due date. That's the charge amount. That's who the current, renter is. And you
Mhm.
can also see, you can actually add a manual payment here, or if they've made the payment, it will show up down there. What I like to do, I believe if you click on the key on the left-hand side, you can see the renters, and then it'll also show all of rent. Yeah, that key right there. Yes. Look at me pointing at my screen, thinking you could see what I'm pointing at. Hey, the one right there. We go. So look, this guy, he don't pay his rent.
Yeah,
You can also
overdue, overdue,
overdue,
overdue.
right? But you can also see that the system is automatically adding,
Late
like
fee.
click on that first one, the February 1st.
Yeah,
So we can see that
adding
there's a
a
late
late
fee of
fee.
$243, and that was calculated based off of whatever those rules were when you
Yeah,
set up these. So it's a really cool system. It makes it fairly seamless to
yeah.
manage your tenants and collect money. And you don't have to think about, oh man, this guy is 3 days late. You can actually communicate directly from the app and send push notifications if they have the app, etc. The other thing is that they can purchase insurance through RentReady to
Beautiful.
insure. It's
They can get
beautiful. I
renters
mean,
in.
there's this, yeah, it's pretty awesome. I can't say enough about RentReady. The other thing
Yeah.
that's cool is that they have an accountant functionality that hooks up to REI Hub, and REI Hub, you can do all of your accounting there, and then pass it off to your accountant, and that makes your tax season go by really, really nicely.
Dude, that's dope. That's dope. Yeah, Rent Ready. Shout out to Rent Ready, man. They are killing the game when it comes to automation. So that's dude. So hey, listen, another thing that we want you to do. Pause it. Pause the podcast. Pause the YouTube. Hey, here we go. You want to like kind of clean this up really fast? So listen, start a Google form right now. All right. Bring up a Google form, Google Doc, whatever, and just do a quick little 3-question pre-screening process, right? That's kind of what Drew said. We get through all the nonsense, right? Weed out all those people that, can't even answer 3 simple questions. Get through
Right.
the fluff. Okay. And then set up your free screening. Go to Avail, go to Rent Ready, go to Smart Move, and go ahead and get that done.
Yeah,
Because
absolutely.
that's what you need to do to kind of take some action. And Drew also talked about the automation, right? The automation of Rent Ready and just anything. So I'm going to kind of pivot a little bit. So Drew, you use Rent Ready, I use my property manager, right?
Yeah.
So with me, I established that relationship with my property manager, and go back to the episode where we talked about renting from afar and setting up your team. I believe it was episode 2 where we talked about that. We'll put that, right up here so that you can go check it out. But anyways, my property manager, properly vets the tenants and things of that nature. And so therefore they are collecting the rent. So, you know, whatever route that you choose, whether it's an automated process with an app where you are kind of self-managing in a way, or you're using a traditional property manager, either way, find what works for you.
Yep.
Set that foundation, have your team, have your boots on the ground so that, you can set the rent correctly, get the tenant in there, get the right tenant, excuse me. Let me preface that and clarify the right tenant, and then collect the rent, and then
Yeah.
just automate that process either with an actual person, a company, a property manager, or with an app so that it's just like clockwork. And then, you know, everything's groovy. Life is groovy, right, Drew? As Drew likes to say.
Let me ask you a quick question. I feel like we've missed a step.
Mm, in the burr? No, in the rent.
No, in the rent. Where are these people coming from? Where are they coming from? Did they just show up? Like, I think one of the things that I think that we did not cover so far is how do you get people to actually find your property,
There we go.
right?
You got to
So,
list it.
you know, you got to list it. You got to
You got
list
to
it.
list
So
it.
that's another cool thing about Rent Ready is
Oh, yeah.
when you put your property on RentReady, there are different segments that it allows you to publish your property to. You can put all your pictures there, you can put your description in there, etc. And in fact, you know, that is going to be critical. And I actually recommend that you get a professional photographer to go into your beautiful rehab and
Your new baby.
get pictures, your new baby, and get some new pictures. Get pictures to show that new baby off. Everybody likes to show that. Hey, look at my baby,
Look at the
right?
baby. Look at
No,
the baby.
I don't
Look at the
want to see
baby.
your baby. I don't want to see your baby. Put
Get
your
that baby
baby
away from
away. So, get some pictures taken, professional pictures of the outside and the inside, any of the amenities, etc. They even have the ability to place fake furniture in those pictures for you. So there's the technology is incredible. Now you
Yeah.
can kind of tell it's fake, but at least you're getting the visual of
Yeah.
what your furniture could possibly look like. The other thing that they have is the ability to do a 360 kind of, you know, pictures should cost you around 200, maybe $300. It's an investment that's worthwhile. Here's the beautiful thing about that as well. You can repurpose those pictures or use those pictures every time you list, right? So you don't only have to do it one time unless you're changing the configuration down the road. So
Yeah.
you can list on Zillow directly from RentReady. I believe that it lists on several other places as
It
well.
does. It lists on
Obviously,
realtor.com as well.
yeah,
And it also, I believe, lists on, you can have it list on like social media, like a Facebook.
right. Right. So you got to get the word out, right? So, me as an
Good point.
advertiser, I'm always thinking, how do I promote my baby? How do I get
Yeah.
it out? How do I show it to the world? And how do I get it in front of the right audience, right?
Right.
So that's a critical step. If you don't do that, nobody's going to be knocking on your door to see your
That's right.
property,
Yep.
right?
That's
Right.
right,
So
man. No one's gonna be knocking, and therefore you ain't gonna have no rent, dude. So, that's good, dude, because
we
you're
gotta
talking
gotta
about
get some rent.
you gotta get the rent, man. I mean, that's
Gotta
that's
get the
just
rent.
so important, man. That's how we get paid as investors.
Yeah,
Well,
man.
there's many ways that we get paid as investors, but this is
Yes.
one slice of the pie. But you're talking about systems, man, and going back to automating that. That's just pivotal because when rents due, ain't nothing worse than trying to chase down your tenant like you chasing down your high school lunch money.
Right?
Like, give me my rent, give me my rent.
Give me my rent. Hey, when you gonna pay?
Yeah, yeah. When you see what happened, I know y'all. Hey, everybody seen Friday. When smoke, hey, when you gonna pay my
Yes.
money? What I mean? Like, I'm gonna
All
have
right.
that.
So let me
I'll have
ask you
that
a
next week.
question. Let me ask you a question. Have you experienced or made any mistakes when putting a renter into one of your houses?
The headaches, yes.
Yeah.
Um, you know, I would say yes. There's times where we
Well, if you
rush
didn't say
into it.
yes, I'd be calling you a liar.
Yeah. There's times where I can say that we rushed into it.
Yes.
We were very, very quick to take the first person that we got through the pre-screen, met hey, they paid 3 times more than the rent, or they make 3 times more than the rent, and everything on paper looked good. The background check looked good, but there there were some other things that we missed. And I'll just say that
Right.
because, it's making life, a little bit of a headache
Yeah.
currently. So
Yeah.
yes, I currently have a I don't want to call a problem, but it's a challenge. The tenant is
Yeah.
currently a challenge. And I think that comes back to us as investors, us as property managers, and the whole team of properly vetting your tenant, right? Because again, these are one of the things that you can
This is a
potentially,
business.
yeah, this is a business, and these are one of the things you can potentially avoid,
Yeah.
So
I
what about you, bro?
So I'm sitting here shaking my head because I literally just got out of a really bad situation. You got to realize that you can be friendly, but these are not your friends, right? This is a business. This is an investment.
Same,
These folks are your tenants, right?
bro.
And I made the
Preach.
mistake. I had a contractor that I allowed to move into one of my properties. I felt like, by the personal relationship that I had with him, and I felt really bad because he had a couple of kiddos, and I was like, yeah, you know what? I trust you, man. You can do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it pulled on my
Yeah.
heartstrings, and
And
then
you
as
and
as
you
a
also had
result,
like a prior relationship with, like a working relationship with him too.
a working relationship with him. Yeah, so I really, really trusted, and it ended up being a situation where I didn't get paid rent for 3 months.
Crazy. That's wild.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
wild.
and it was very souring. It ruined the relationship, obviously, because somebody had to pay the mortgage,
Right?
right?
He wasn't.
Hey, my name definitely wasn't Paul in that sort of situation, right? It's funny because, every time I talk to him, I'm like, hey, it was one of those things where he didn't even look at rent ready. I'd have to call him, hey, are you going to pay rent?
Yeah.
And he's like, no, I have to get my car fixed.
Yeah. See, what had
You
happened
pay,
was the way
you
my
can
bank
pay
account's
for
set up.
everything else but me, right?
That's right.
It was a bad situation. So,
Yeah, man.
you know, we have to also, again, we're learning, we're going through the process,
Yeah, I
and what
get it.
we're trying to do is save you from making the exact
Dude,
same mistakes. And
learn
it's
from
funny,
our mistakes.
my wife, she told me before we got into this game, she's like, hey, these people are not your friends, right? They're not your friends. And it's like, you can be friendly, you can be courteous, you can be professional. But at the end of the day, you have to run your business, or your business is going to run you into the ground.
Yeah. That's facts, bro. Same. Your business is gonna be running you to your therapist or your pastor, or God forbid, your mom. Like mommy. Yeah,
Okay, my mom is my pastor,
that's true.
so thank you
And
very
she my
much.
pastor too. So yeah, that's funny. That's funny. So lesson is what? Every tenant, no matter what, goes through the same process. So people,
Everyone.
listen to us, right?
Yeah.
Everyone's
Don't skip
no
a step.
exceptions. Don't skip a step.
Don't do it.
No exceptions. No matter what. If they are your friend, cool. That's great. But set up the process. Hey, rent's due at the first of the month. It's late by the fifth. Have it in the lease. Blase, blase, blah.
Yeah.
But our point is run your business like a business. Stop chasing these people like it's high school lunch money. And
Yeah.
they like dodging you, ducking and dodging you. Either run your business like a business or get a professional to run your business like a business if you are not going to do it.
Yeah.
Right.
And I would take it even a step further, just from the experience that I've had, is if they are your friend, I can't rent to you,
There you go.
because
You can just be
I
like,
just can't
just
do
be
it,
honest.
right? Yeah, I can't rent to you because, I mean, unless they're making 10 times the rent, you know? I don't
You're
know. I
like,
just I don't ever want to have to go through a situation where, it's awkward. You know what I'm saying?
yeah, 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 yeah,
That's
yeah,
just
yeah,
my
yeah.
I mean, you do you,
Yeah,
obviously. You do
I hear
you,
you, brother.
but I would rather just not have to cross that bridge.
Yeah. Cool, man. Cool. So just to kind of recap, right? So we went through the process of setting the rent, right? Some of our
Yeah.
favorite tools to use: Rentometer, the
Yep.
Bigger Pockets rental calculator, right? Jump on those.
Yes.
And then
Yes.
we talked about screening your tenant, properly vetting the proper tenant. Some of the tools we like to use, you can do hard, fast, and true, a property manager with a property management company. Or if you'd like to do the process yourself, there is Avail.co, there's Smart
Right.
Move through
Yes.
TransUnion. And of course, there is Rent Ready, which also automates
Yes.
the process. Don't forget about leases, guys. Drew and I both we love to use Rocket Lawyer. We
Yeah,
have
Rocket
we
Lawyer
have an
is
account with
solid.
Rocket Lawyer, solid.
Yes.
DocuSign, right? Get those leases,
Mhm.
and they're quick, they're easy, and a lot of times they are generated automatically. They have templates. Facebook, social media, local, local property managers, landlords, call them up. What is this tenant like? And then the last segment we talked about was obviously automating that process. You
Automate
know,
the process. Keep it
yeah,
simple.
yeah, this
Don't
was
reinvent
great.
the wheel.
This was
I
great.
love it, man. That's
Yeah.
fantastic.
Yeah. Automate that process, man. Don't forget to verify every reference.
Yep. So let's wrap this up, man. So
Yeah.
obviously, the rent phase is where the BRRR, the bear, the
Huh.
BRRRR becomes a business, right? The BRRRR. It is where it truly becomes a business. And setting up that rent aspect, qualifying the tenant, making sure that you set up the systems so that your life is easy, either through a property manager or through automation, and then keeping it professional, having the same standards.
Mhm.
Don't forget to verify every little aspect of the application. You got to go through it. You got to
Got to
pick up the phone, call the references,
do
et
it.
cetera. Because again, by doing all of these different things, it is going to save you so much headache, right?
And
It's going to save
headaches,
you a lot of money on
dude.
ibuprofen. Let's just
I
put it
was about
that
to
way.
say, and headaches equal time, and time equals money.
Yes. Yes, man. Dude, I got so if it this has been extremely valuable. It's good to kind of go through this because
Yeah.
again, like it's a lot of times, you have to put these I think you have to put this as an SOP, right? I need to write all of this stuff down in my SOP so I can pick it up and I can remember, okay, I got to do this, this,
Yeah.
this, this, and this so that I can have a successful tenant relationship moving forward.
To dude, awesome. So listen, people, if you got value out of this episode, do us a favor. Hit that follow button, like and subscribe. We appreciate you.
Yes,
And drop us a review on
absolutely.
podcasts, Spotify, leave us a comment on YouTube. We really appreciate it. And
Absolutely.
don't just do as we say, not as we do. So that
And
like,
listen, if you have any questions or any ideas, or you'd like to speak with us or maybe possibly show up on one of these episodes, we'd love to hear from you. We
yeah,
would love to
yeah,
hear from you. Drop us
absolutely.
a line, DM us. This is an adventure that we are all on.
Yeah.
And, we definitely hope that we're bringing value and that you are enjoying what we're cooking up for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So next week, I think we're gonna dive into the refinance process next week. So stay tuned for that, and how to boost your appraisals and structure your
Yes.
portfolio, just, kind of like a beast, like a boss. So that's gonna be cool to kind
There we
of
go.
dive into that. Catch us on
I'm
all the
excited about that one,
socials.
brother.
Yeah, dude, that's gonna be dope. Catch us on all the socials, y'all. YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook. We'll put it all in the show notes, baby. Drew,
There we
what you
go.
got for the people?
Yo, I appreciate you staying here with me, man. It's always a pleasure. I love you. I love the knowledge that you bring. I love the preparation that you brought to the show. This was a banger. This was a
Yes,
banger.
sir.
So I
Appreciate you.
appreciate you, brother.
Appreciate you, man. Love you too. So for Drew, I'm Jordan, and we are the Property.
The Property Brrrrothas.
Peace, y'all. Take care.
The Property Brrrrothas.
The Property Brothers was produced and edited by the hosts. All rights are reserved by the Property Brothers LLC, and the hosts are operating exclusively on behalf of the Property Brothers LLC. Please consult appropriate tax, legal, real estate, financial, or business advice. Nothing on this show should be considered professional advice. We appreciate you all for following our journey. It would mean the world to us if you could like, subscribe, and leave a review wherever you listen to podcasts. God bless.